Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and welcome everyone to our live podcast session for tonight. My name is Haris Naim and I will be your moderator for today's session. So, before we start, I would like to wish a very warm welcome to all of our honorable speakers and to all of our viewers that are watching us live now from the HISTFORIUM IUM YouTube channel. In conjunction with History Festival or HISFest 2021, HISTFORIUM bring you a live podcast with a title of Situation pandemic from the various situation perspective. In today's event, our speakers will be discussing about pandemic from various perspectives, which they will share their thoughts and their knowledge based on a different perspectives. So don't worry, as promised, our committee will share the attendance link for you guys to get the start point for attending our program tonight. So before we start, I would like to introduce you guys with all of our honorable speaker tonight. All of our speakers tonight come from the proud student of IUM himself, which come from the student from the Kulliyah of Islamic Knowledge, Architecture and Human Sciences. So without further ado, I would like to introduce you guys to our first speaker for tonight. First of all, we have Sister Izen Izwani from the Department of History and Civilization. She is currently on her final year, final semester study. So, hi, Sister Izwani.
Hi everyone.
So next, we have Sister Iman Christina, a third year student and also actually a president of POSA IUM. So she is currently on her third year of her study.
Hi guys, I'm Iman.
And then we have our third speaker, Brother Muhammad Idham, also a final year, final semester student from the Department of Sociology and Anthropology.
Hi everyone.
Moving on, we have our fourth speaker, Sister Hasrin Shazana from the Department of Psychology.
Hello guys.
And finally, we have the Vice President of ISRA himself, Brother Ahmad Dini, a third year student from the Islamic Review Knowledge Department. Assalamualaikum, Brother Dini.
Waalaikumsalam. Good. Have a very great night, everyone.
So now let's not wasting our time. On to our main agenda for the next hours. We are going to have two special sessions tonight. For the first session, each speaker will talk about the pandemic from their represent perspective. And then we will proceed to the answer and question session from the audience. So to all audience out there, you guys can start to construct your question and to be asked to our respective speakers. So if you please don't forget to mention the speaker's name to whom you want to ask the question to. So let's not wasting our time. I think we've been waiting for a long time. We're going to proceed to our first session tonight. I would like to welcome Sister Izan Izwani from the Department of History of Civilization to share her knowledge from the history perspective. Please welcome Sister Izwani.
Thank you, Brother Naim. Assalamualaikum. Hello everyone. Firstly and first and foremost, thank you HISTFORIUM for having me. I am pleased to be here along my fellow friends from different Architecture department. We have political science students here, Architecture students, psychology and sociology students, and I'm really looking forward to hear from them later. Back to our main topic, I will view on the pandemic from historical perspective. As human civilization rose, there have been a number of pandemic happen such as the Black Death, Russian Plague, London Plague, and many more. But among all of these pandemic, I would like to relate COVID-19 with other pandemic which known as Spanish flu 1918. Spanish flu is the second deadliest plague in history after the Black Death in 13th. So, how exactly did a flu started? Well, there is no 100% certainty on this matter. Some historians said it could have been from World War One, or maybe the China outbreak of the respiratory system disease in 1917, or maybe It started best from military base in Kansas, where 48 soldiers die of flu-like symptoms right before the outbreak. What I do know for sure is that the Spanish flu did not start from the Spain. Then why is called the Spanish? To answer this, the flu broke out during the World War One. In the US, some people were even afraid reporting the flu because it might opposite the law. During that time, the actions against government and the war persecution is totally wrong. But Spain was not in World War One, and since they had no reason to hide anything. They report their flu-related death. Even King of Spain, Alfonso XIII, got the disease, but Alhamdulillah he survived. So with the spotlight on Spain, U.S. and European news outline nickname it as Spanish flu. It's quite complicated to understand, but it gave clear perspective that some pandemic doesn't really name after the country is originated. If so, why today pandemic call COVID-19 instead of we call Wuhan virus, right? So next, let's look on the similarities between COVID-19 and Spanish flu 1918. Both 1918's influenza and COVID-19 have a similar disease presentations. Symptoms such as fever, itches, and a sore throat are all standard, but 1918 flu was worse. Dark spot would appear on the patient body before the skin turned blue, signaling the lack of oxygen in their blood. And patients would bleed from their nose and ears. In 1918, at Camp Funston, U.S. Army Doctor Roy Grace stressed that the Spanish flu only a matter of few hours until the patient was killed. In addition, compared to COVID-19, the older people face high risk to be affected to virus due to poor conditions and condition aging. Meanwhile, the majority of those who killed by Spanish flu were young, healthy adults between the ages of 15 and 44, meaning that many children lost one or both parents. That is why Spanish flu, also known as the forgotten pandemic, whereas after the flu was over, no one really wanted to talk about it because it's really trauma, trauma, traumatized. So the virus later quickly spread through soldiers by several waves. Those soldiers carrying flu that would spread faster than war itself. To make matter worse, knowledge of viruses at that time was very limited, since microscope of the day were not powerful enough to see the virus. People began blaming the Germans, which is they claiming they were spreading poison clouds that caused the flu. Doctors had no way to create a vaccines, antiviral drugs, or even antibiotic for infections like today. Instead, most prevention effort they try to do is they focus on quarantine and personal hygiene like we do today. And at that time also school, religious building like churches and other public gathering spaces were also shut down in many cities. I I recall that in San Francisco they find people with $5 who did not wear mask protections, and it also happened today where government fined Malaysian 10K if they doesn't wear the mask. So we can see that they really took a strict step to prevent pandemic from spreading. And in the end, after only 1 year, the Spanish flu 1918 slowly recovered, and more than 16 million people died in World War One. The Spanish flu killed at least 50 million people, and some believe the number may be closer to 100 millions. In the US alone, 675,000 people were killed by the flu. That show more American death from the disease than the war itself. So I can say that Spanish flu is another episode to the COVID-19 pandemic. On the bright side, because of Spanish flu 1918 and other pandemic, the government and hospital had to quickly learn how the best to treat the large number of casualties and were exposed to lesson that we know to be crucial in infection control today. I guess that's all from me. Back to moderator, Brother Haris. Thank you.
So I think I believe sharing today has really opened up our mind and basically it opened up our conversation today. So we can see how history does repeat itself, isn't it?
Yes.
So I think thank you, Sister Iwan Izian, for your question. So guys, if you have any question regarding historical perspective or any question to you, Sister Iwani, you guys can mention her name in the comment section and you guys can ask the question. So let's proceed to our second speaker tonight. I would like to invite Sister Iman Christina to give us a little insight or an insight how does this pandemic has changed the political situation and dynamic in Malaysia itself. So please welcome Sister Iman.
Thank you, Brother Harith. Also, I would like to take this opportunity to thank HISTFORIUM for inviting me to be a part of this wonderful event. So, like Brother Harith has said, I'll probably be talking about the changes that we can see when it comes to the political environment, the political dynamics of Malaysia, especially during this COVID-19 era, I guess. So, okay, in 2020, we were already surprised by the pandemic. But as we all know, we had another big surprise that came straight after that. It was the formation of a new government, and that indicates a very big change. It was a historical change lah. It actually put a spotlight on our country. A lot of international media was reporting on it, and I'll be frank, it actually put the whole country in quite a mess. But let's not talk about that. We know that a lot has been happening and a lot is still happening. It's all the events that ensued after that is nothing less than dramatic, if I could say that myself. But like what has actually changed, I feel like even though there are those negative events that have been happening, it has actually helped a lot in changing the political environment, the political participation of Malaysians in during this pandemic. So for example, we have of course the never ending phases of MCO, CMCO, extension of CMCO, RMCO, MCO. you know I'll be frank, I do not know what phase we are on already. A lot of people have been struggling with trying to understand what is allowed and what is not allowed. And with the MCO and CMCO being enacted, a lot of people are a lot of people have been affected by it. Businesses are closed down, some have been closed down permanently. Schools, as we know, we are all still in our online phase, online distant learning, and it's been the third semester, and we haven't had heard any positive changes or updates on the guidelines or SOPs that we could adapt and adopt. But I feel that with all these happenings, a lot of people, the political participation of Malaysians, their interests have been heightened. Because we know that whatever the government is doing, whatever the political situation of Malaysia is at right now, it will directly impact us. With the closure of businesses, people are looking forward to what the government's decision is going to be. A lot of people are now wanting to know what is happening and what this move would ensue. Some people, before this probably would just think that, oh, the parliament's suspended. Okay, so what? Oh, it's a darurat. Okay, whatever. But but now that we're in this, and some, maybe our parents or our family, they are affected by not being able to go to work. We don't get to enjoy our student life. We we are more, we are more interested in knowing what that means. So a lot of people, even my friends now, are learning what a parliament does, what they do, what is an MP, who is actually responsible of things. People are starting to want to know what's happening, and people want to know that, what can we do. And as we can see, a lot, we have demonstrations to for Undi 18. Our youth are starting to rise because they know, they learn that what their rights are and what can be changed. So I believe that, especially the political environment, the political participation in Malaysia during this pandemic, has shown a positive, I guess, change, where people are more interested. And especially coming in this coming GE 15, the general election, the 15th general election. um I can't forecast anything, but I know that a lot of people will be more involved. We will be seeing maybe more opinions, and during this pandemic as well, we can actually see a rise in numbers of NGOs, of think tanks, of people wanting to research more, to educate the people. A lot of people want to share more information, and with a society that is more educated and more informed, we are able to balance out whatever our current government is not able to. So I believe that the political climate in Malaysia has taken a stronger change when it comes to the side of the people. And as a democratic country where the people is the number one, the major role player, the major player of this thing. Having an empowered society will definitely um, you know um, at least show a promising future. I believe that, yeah, if we can empower the people, we are able to shape a stronger future. That is what I think. Um, yeah. Okay, so uh, besides from that, we can also see that I can't just discredit the government. The government has shown how it has been playing how it has been carrying out their responsibilities and duties. At the start of the year and the start of last year, we have seen the rollout of a lot of stimulus packages. We had the Prihatin, and then we had the recently the Perkasa. We had the Penaraju. I think the Penaraju would be something that a lot of you guys would be more aware about, because a lot of people got your e-money on Shopee, Touch and Go, and so on. So I know you guys is very well aware about that. And then we also have like aid for small businesses and so on. However, even though the stimulus package was one of the biggest that have been um, that that has been given by the government, it actually did quite little in assisting, because it's mostly a one-off payment, and it's not something that can be a solution for a long-term thing. So a lot of these people, the youth, adults, business owners, they are now pushing the government to make, it's time for you guys to have a sense of urgency. You guys have to start making all these plans, what will happen in the future, because last year we had a weekend where we thought, okay, the cases are going down, we are going to going back to normal, but that was not the case. We had the third wave caused by the Sabah elections, which I will not talk about. So we don't know if that something like that is going to happen again this year, because recently we were in the three digits, but now we're back to 1.4, and then today is 1.1. So it's not a promised thing that things would go back to normal. So I believe that there are discussions that are made to improve the current situation, to ameliorate the the situation that we are in. But yeah, I feel like there are the bad sides of it, but there is also a very commendable change, a positive change when it comes to the society. Yeah, I think that is all from me. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sister Iman. I believe Sister Iman have very given us a very detailed and very detailed information for us. Interestingly, how despite all the lockdown, despite people staying at home, the political awareness are increasing. Very interesting, seeing how our Malaysian has shown very good improvement in their life in political awareness itself. So as usual, if you have any question for Sister Iman, don't forget to mention her name in the comment section and ask your question. So without further ado, let's proceed to our third speakers, Brother Muhammad Idham from the Sociology and Anthropology Department to talk about how the communities are affected during the COVID-19 pandemic and their impact. How do we foster a more wholesome improvement? Please welcome Brother Idham.
All right. Assalamualaikum, Brother Haris, the moderator, and also a good evening I bid to fellow speakers as well as fellow audience. Yeah, so we have seen interesting speeches from Sister Iwani and Sister Iman, and there are interesting things that I found. For example, Sister Iwani mentioned about how um, there is a tendency in history where people blame a group of people with certain nationality for the disaster that happened. And it is also interesting how Sister Iman mentioned about um, people having questions about how and what to do in this pandemic situation. It's interesting, and that is what I would like to shed light on today. But different from what Sister Iman analysis, mine is a bit on the darker side. Okay, and this is primarily because fear is one of the predominant themes that many anthropologists and sociologists use to describe about the social impact of COVID-19. Therefore, today I will be explaining a bit about how this has impacted us socially by looking into the phenomena of fear and social distance. Towards the end, I will try to provide a general suggestion on how we can strive to make the situation better. So, first of all, fear. Fear, according to Andrew Tudor, a sociologist, is a very complex phenomenon. It is a situated human experience that entails the interaction between contextual aspect of human life and their individual constitution. Or in simpler words, it is a combination of the environment, culture, societal structure, physical body, a person's personality and social identity. This is what constitute our fear. And in the context of COVID-19, um, there are three layers to this phenomena that this pandemic have induced. Um, First of all, it is primarily rooted in the natural aversion to death. In other words, people fear death. Okay, I think most people do not want to die, at least not early. Um, so that constitute the first layer of fear, and then the second layer is the change in the contextual structure of human social life. So just like as had been mentioned by the previous speaker, human social activities and social functioning had been restricted. And prior to the pandemic, people have been depending upon the stability of these social activities for the well-being. So what does this restriction mean? It simply means that this stability is being disrupted, and therefore there is also disruption to their means of well-being. And then we come to the third layer of this phenomena of fear, that is it is rooted in people's social identity and social interaction. Um, since the conventional social interaction is restricted, where we cannot, physically interact with other people. We have seen adaptation to virtual form of interaction instead, thanks to the technology that we have, like the internet, computers, smartphones, just like what we're having now. Um, the thing is, scholars have pointed out how the information that have circulated through the social media have led to uncertainty and anxiety among individuals online. Some scholars, interestingly, call this phenomenon infollution, combining the words information and pollution. And it is referring to the fact that information are so redundant and so abundant online that people could not make a proper evaluation as to which is the truth, which is not, and it resulted into confusion, and this confusion feeds into people's fear. So here we can see the complex phenomena of fear that is caused by the pandemic itself. And so how does this impact our social life? Well, one of the famous doctrine in sociology and anthropology is that human is a political animal, according to Aristotle. And according to some other scholar like Karl Marx, man is a species being. And the other scholars say that man is a historical being. All these doctrines refers to the fact that people is social in nature. People live in group, and there are different groups. Okay, so when we refer to the relation of individuals within a group, we call that solidarity. And when we refer to the relation of people outside the group, or relation of people between different groups, we call that social distance. Um, and when referring to the likelihood, sorry, um, yeah, about the social distance, it actually refers to the degree of intimacy, or the degree of hostility between two different groups. So the closer the social distance between the two groups, the more cordial they are, or vice versa, the more hostile and antagonistic they are. Um, when we talk about how people are becoming how the social distance are becoming greater within groups, um, I propose that we term this phenomena as the othering. This is a phenomena where we have this perception that all people who does not belong to our group as the others. This is a concept that is laden with antagonistic connotation towards them. It is an attitude that is characterized by ethnocentrism, or cultural arrogance, racism, and stigmatization. So in this pandemic situation, um, the phenomena of fear that I've mentioned just now, it impacted our social life by weakening the social solidarity within groups, and on the other hand, it also aggravates, or it makes worse, the social distance that is already existing between group. So one of the conspicuous instance in this matter, we can see through the discrimination and the stigmatization that had happened to migrant workers. And this also had happened in our own country itself, unfortunately. There are worries voiced out about how the migrant workers carry the risk of infection due to some of them being undocumented and therefore unregulated. This and other baseless rumors and speculation about them serves to justify discriminatory and unethical practices targeted to these people. For example, like the indiscriminate detainment of the migrant workers in Malaysia. We have also seen demonizing statements made about these people, while criticizing them for breaking the immigration law. My point here is that it's not that this criticism is wrong, but rather that this demonization is a manifestation of the othering phenomena that I talk about. That So this is basically how we can make sense about the social impact of COVID-19. And thus, I would like to bring out several suggestions on how can we alleviate this situation. First of all effort to resolve the issues of the pandemic must consider the contextual and the structural aspect of the problem in the first place. For an sociologist and anthropologist, COVID-19, although biological in nature, is actually a social phenomena because the way it escalates the level it is now has to do with our social context. And then my second proposition is to produce objective knowledge and transmit them equally, so that we can destroy the root of the confusion and ignorance. And finally, we shall reinforce our solidarity and reduce the social distancing between groups by exploiting the already existing virtual modes of social interaction that we have. So that we can have a better solidarity. This way, we can reinforce mechanical solidarity based on the normative similarities that all of us currently possess. So this way, we might not be able to, completely remove the problem of COVID-19, which is very complex in the first place, but at least we can build resilience this way to face the predicament better. So that is all from me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brother Idham. I'm sure all of our viewers tonight, even me myself, can relate your explanation. Everyone can really relate what's happened today's in among us is actually what's happened with your explanation. And I really love how Brother Idham give us some example of how we can improve our life by we people itself need to be united despite being locked down, despite being separated, we have to be united and show our solidarity. Thank you, Brother Idham. So next, I will humbly invite our fourth speaker, Sister Hasrin Shadana from the Department of Psychology to share her knowledge on mental health and COVID-19 pandemic situation and share with us some tips for a healthier mind. Please welcome Sister Hasrin Shadana.
Hello, everyone. Hi. Thank you so much, Brother Haris, for inviting us, me, as the representative for Department of Psychology. So, before I start with the tips for a healthier mind, I would like to share on the psychological impact of COVID-19 among university students, because I assume that the audience are largely university students, and I think this can be very beneficial for people. So there is this local study by researchers in Malaysia. They look into the psychological impact of COVID-19 among university students. And the findings are very interesting. So they found that female students are more anxious than male students. And those who are staying alone are more anxious than those who are staying with their family and friends, which is, I think it's very nice to see that it relates to Brother Idham's explanation just now. He said about fear, and this is about anxiety, not anxiety disorders, but anxiety as an emotion. So some of the things that makes them stressed out are financial problems and shifting to online classes. Adapting can be very hard for a lot of people, and worrying about what lies ahead. So because of the notion that university students should learn, study, graduate, and then earn money by having a job. But that seems hard to do right now because of COVID-19, just like what Sister Iman said, because of the small businesses closing down and stuff. So this is hard for a lot of us right now, being anxious about what's going to happen and what is happening right now. So I am here to share with you the tips for a healthier mind. So the first tip is to be attuned to your body and mind, because okay, right now we are university students, or if you work from home, you will sit down and you will be in front of a laptop, right, like right now, and you will just work for hours and hours on end, right? And then you start to feel back pain or something weird around your shoulders or your neck, and then you start to think like, oh my God, what's happening? I need to do something about it, right? So after that, you will try to do something about it, and you will stand up, or you will lie down and go to sleep, or you will go for an exercise, take a walk, something like that, because you want the pain to subside. So that is for physical pain. You need to take care of your mental health as well. Mentally, things that you feel, things that you things that you feel inside your brain, inside your head, in your body. So sometimes you feel stressed, sometimes you feel low, you feel sad, whatever it is that you feel, acknowledge those feelings first. It's very, very important to acknowledge all these feelings. Negative emotions, positive emotions, they are equally important. So you feel happy, you feel sad, you feel stressed, whatever it is, just acknowledge them first. I know it's hard for some people because, men don't cry, or big girls don't cry, or people who cry are weak, something like that. But it's not true because it's a natural human process. It's very natural for us to feel sad, happy, anxious. Um, but what we do about it is what makes it different. So after you acknowledge those pains, you want to figure out how to you know not let it go away, but manage the emotion. So I will give you the second tip, which is to reach out to your family and friends. Like Reddy Idham said just now, social interaction. And I agree so much that social interaction is very important because, like I mentioned just now, how students who are staying alone are more anxious than those who are staying with family and friends. Well, that has something to do with social interaction because we need social interaction to live. I mean, some will argue that you only need food, water, or oxygen to live. But right now, we are not trying to just survive, we are trying to thrive. So, to thrive, you have to socially interact with people. So, talk to them, call them, text them, have movie nights, whatever it is. And right now, we actually can go out, right? So, take that to advantage because you'll never know if we have to be in a lockdown again. So yeah, provided that you maintain the SOPs, of course. So yeah, that is what I think. Oh right, again, another tip, third tip. Say you already do all these things. You talk to your friend, you vent out your problems, stuff like that. But you still feel something. You feel sad or stressed, whatever it is that you feel. Um, My third tip would be to reach out to many organizations and institutions. We are lucky that in Malaysia, our healthcare is very affordable. So take that to an advantage and go to government hospital. They charge you for around 5 ringgit to 30 ringgit to for their services. But private hospitals, they do give out services as well, but it's quite costly. And then we also have Mentari. Mentari is Pusat Kesihatan Mental Masyarakat, and it is a government initiative, and it is available in each state. So you might want to check that out as well. And in IUM, we are very, very, very lucky because there are a lot of people out there who really care about your mental health. So we have CCSC, we also have PSU, Psychology Services Unit. We have newly established IUM Emotional and Psychosocial Care Team in 2020. They just established last year because of COVID-19 and they want to help you out. So they provide e-psychosocial support. Yes. And as well as they are I am so sorry because of the sound. um right, where was I? Oh yeah, okay, PSU and Impact. So Impact, they provide psychosocial services, and they are a team of mental health professionals in IUM. But if you ever feel like you just want to talk to someone who is around your age, like me, like us, you can go for Peer Psychosocial Support Team. Peer Psychosocial Support Team is a team full of psychology students, undergraduate psychology students, and are trained by clinical psychologists. So if you ever want people to help you out, or you want someone to listen to you, or you want to vent out your problems, then you can go for a Pure Psychosocial Support Team. I think PsychStar will update you on that. And NGOs, like I don't remember whether Idham or Sister Iman mentioned about NGOs, but NGOs, they are a lot right now because of COVID-19, and there are just so many information to tell. about mental health, especially because of mental health situation right now because of COVID-19. So they some NGOs they spread mental health awareness, and some even provide services like SOLS Health, SOLS Health. They provide services like SOLS Health and then Befrienders, and some even provide they give out information, and they are very active on social media if you want to check them out. Like Minda Kami, they share news on mental health issues, and they do podcasts as well, like this one. So if you ever want to reach out, there are so many outlets for you to go to. And okay, these are the tips that sounds very cliche, but it's true. It works wonders. So you need to sleep well, eat well, go for exercises, talk to people. Talk to people is very important. And I think that's all from me. Yeah. So if you ever have any questions, do ask.
Thank you. Thank you, Sister Hasrin Shazana, for your very informative. I believe that we already hear a lot of mental health campaign issue lately, but it is our responsibility to keep on spread the awareness for people to keep on reach out if they have a mental health problem. So I think that's really, really insightful and helpful tips for especially we as a student. So let's proceed to our last speakers, Brother Ahmad Dini, to share with us another perspective of pandemic, which is the history of virus outbreak in classical Islam and the ibrah that we can learn from it. Please welcome Brother Ahmad Dini.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you to Brother Harith for his great moderating for tonight. So, Alhamdulillah. So, I'm going to talk about the plague. Right, we call it the plague during the early classical Islam. There's no such thing as pandemic during that time because we don't. They don't use the term pandemic, but they use the term ta'un, or you call it the plague that occurs during that time. You know about the Black Death and so on. Right. So the early plague that happens is the Justinian plague. It happens during the Byzantine times. So during the history of Islam, it's a very wide history, right? So there are three stages of the plague that occur. The first is during the early classical Islam. The second is during the middle period of Islam, during the time of the middle part in the 1300s to the 1500s, and then during the late period in the 1800s until today. So this plague reoccur again and again. It happens in the Islamic world, and they have to face it. So during the first plague that occurred is during the early Muslim expansion, when the Muslims was just in their early days of Islam, during the Caliphate era of Umar al-Khattab. They expanded their territory to the Sham region, the Levant, that is Syria today, and also Palestine. So during that time, we know our famous commander, which is Khalid al-Walid Abu Ubaidah al-Jarrah. After they managed to take the Sham, the Levant, something happens where this plague struck the Muslims who was just sitting and settling down in the Levant. And that plague killed many of the companions like Abu Ubaidah al-Jarrah, Khalid al-Walid, and even Mu'az ibn Jabal was killed because of this plague. So this plague is called by the Muslim scholars as the Amwas plague. So this is the plague that was mentioned in the hadith when Umar al-Khattab, I think everyone knows about this hadith, when Umar al-Khattab, he went to Sham to see for himself, to ask Abu Ubaidah to come back to Medina. So he went for himself to Sham. But when it happens, he come back to Medina because of a prophet hadith that said that if you are in the plague area, you should stay there, and if you are not from the plague area, you should not come there, right? So this is the famous hadith that occurred during that time. So that's why Umar al-Khattab, he decided with his advisors to come back, to return to Medina and not enter the out Sham, the Levant, because at that time the plague was raging like fire, killing one by one of the Muslim army. But then, Alhamdulillah, the plague settled down, and the Muslim make the Levant as their home, and that is where you get Sharia for today. So this is what happens during the early classical period, where we have two kind of hadith that talk about the plague. The first is about the martyrdom, the martyr. If you died during the plague because you are patient, all right, you get shaheed status. That's the first hadith. The second hadith is about the quarantine that you said you do not enter, you do not go out. So this is the two kind of hadith that's actually contradict, right? The contradict that make the Muslim scholars contradict with each other. I will tell you why. Let us go to a few hundred years forward during the Black Death. Everyone knows the bubonic plague that occurred in Europe. It came to the Arabian world as well. It killed so many people from Al-Andalus to Ifriqiya to the Levant. Because of what? Because of trade. Because of what? Because of mice from the rats, from the ships of the people from the Europe that came to the Arabian land. So this disease spreads very fast. It happens during the time of Ibn Battuta. If you know Ibn Battuta, he went from Ifriqiya, from Maghreb to China. When he wanted to come back to Maghreb, he was in Damascus at that time, and then suddenly many people died. He was so shocked. He ran away to Aleppo. He ran away to other places, but the plague kept following him and killed so many people. And there is this one thing that he mentioned in his book Al-Rihla, that when he was in Damascus, the plague was just hitting at that time, and he was there. And what did the Muslim do? No, they do not quarantine. What do? They went to the mosque in masses, in many people all went to the mosque. And of course, we know what happens when Muslims go to the mosque. More people die, because at that time they did not know about the quarantine. They did not know about contagious. They did not know that this disease spread like is a contagious disease that spread from human to human. No, they do not know that. That's why the ulama has different ijtihad based on the hadith, right? Like Ibn al-Khatib and Ibn al-Khatima, the scholars from Al-Andalus, they say that plague is contagious, so run away. They use the hadith of do not enter and do not leave. They use the hadith. But Al-Wardi and Al-Manbiji and also Ibn Hajar said that you cannot do anything. That is Allah wills, and you will attain martyrdom if you be patient. So you see that ulama at that time have different ijtihad. Some say stay, some say no, some say just be patient. We will die. We will gain martyrdom. We will shaheed. That's what happened during the time of the middle period of Islam. But that's because they do not have proof that during that time science was not developed. However, during the 1800s, during the Ottoman period, plague struck Mecca 2 times and almost killed so many people. And in 1814, the Hajj was disrupted. They cannot do Hajj because the plague was killing thousands of people. So what happened? There was this a doctor from France. He advised Ali Pasha and also the Ottoman at that time to do quarantine, and he shows scientific facts. And during that time, it was a renaissance of science during the Ottoman era in the 1800s, the Tanzimat Reformation, if the history people know. So during that time, yes, they finally said, let's do quarantine, let's do these scientific facts. And the ulama has their own ijtihad based on qawaid fiqhiyah, ad-daruru yuzal, and something like that, like what happens today. Because of what? Because we have scientific facts, and Islamic judge and Islamic results need to be based on science. But during the time of Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, during the time of Manbiji, Al-Wadi, and so on, they do not have this scientific time. So that's why they say they use the hadith. You just stay there, you just go pray 5 times a day, and you will die as a shaheed. That's what happened during that time. So, but during our time, no, because we have the scientific method, we have the qawaid fiqhiyah, and we understand that this disease is contagious. So that's why it is very important for us to know that the ulama, that the mufti, that the fatwa, they are not stupid people. They understand what happens. They do their own research to understand, and they even research the history of what happens during that time. So I think that is what we can learn from our Islamic perspective. Is there anything else? Yes, I think that's. Oh, there's one more thing that I want to mention about the vaccine. I think you might have known about the vaccine that some people are so scared of the vaccine. But actually, did you guys know that the vaccine was created during the Ottoman era in the 1700s by the Muslims? It was during that time the chicken pox was very rapidly spreading amongst the Ottoman, and they used cow. I don't remember what cow did they use, and they put it to be as a vaccine for the Turks in the Anatolia region. So Lady Montagu, who was the ambassador, the wife of the ambassador of UK in the Ottoman era at that time, she saw this and she wrote a letter to the UK kingdom and told the kings and queens there about what happens in the Ottoman era, what happens in the Ottoman land. The people were not sick because they were using some kind of something that they don't even know. So by using the Lady Montagu writing, vaccine was developed in the UK. So that's the history of the vaccine. So do not be scared of vaccine. I get you, anti-vax. That's the history of Islam with vaccine. Thank you.
Thank you, Radini. That's a very wonderful sharing. I believe it show how important the scientific study, the education has go through among the history of Islam itself. So even the Islam history itself are not are the one that affected with the pandemic itself. So I think that has really good ended our sharing session for today. So I would like to proceed with our next session, which is the Q&A session. So I hope every speaker are ready. So we're going to proceed with our Q&A session. So let's if for audience out there, if you have any question, as usual, don't forget to mention the name of the speakers and you guys can ask your question. So without further ado, let's proceed to our first speaker, Sister Iwani, for the Q&A session. So Sister Iwani, we have the question from the YouTube comment is the one that from the for Sister Iwani, the question is, maybe you want to include a story of Dr. Wu Lin-Te, a Malaysian doctor who invented the face mask during the missionary plug in 1910 into
Yes.
1911.
Okay, thank you for the question. So yeah, I forgot to mention about our proud Malaysian's Dr. Wu Te, who was invented mask for during the Manchurian plot, and his contribution actually continuously to other plague that happens around that time, even Spanish flu also. They invented the mask from Dr. Wu itself, and um, so there's other questions that ask why Asian, so many pandemic or disease that originated in Asian, because there were many migration happens during that time, and the the wanted of deforest the urbanizations and also deforestation, they kill the predator, and they believe on the traditional Chinese medicines where there is none of them is relevant, where they kill animal like bear, penguin to help to cure the disease, and also um, they also doing a live market animals that cause many pandemics. So I hope it answered the question.
Second question is about the Dr. Wu Lin-Te. But I think
Yeah, second question.
okay,
I have answer.
okay, it's okay. How about we proceed with our second question for our second speakers? The question for our second speakers is for Sister Iman Christina. So the question is, for during this COVID-19, in some countries, we can see a trend of politicians using fear mongering when it comes to COVID-19 and the public influenced by them. So why is this trend happen? Please welcome Sister Iman.
Okay, thank you so much for the question. I think fear is actually one of the political tool that has been used by government in as far back as we can know. It's basically one of the very main political tools. Governments seem to always use fear in order to maintain control, maintain order, or to expand their governmental power and influence over the people. But I think in the context of Malaysia, in curbing the COVID-19 pandemic, as we seen earlier during the early days of the COVID-19 in Malaysia, most of the incentives were taken actually by the people. Sure, there were emergency announcements that okay, there's going to be a lockdown and whatsoever. But in terms of following the SOPs and so on, I think it is mostly on the account of the people themselves. We could actually see that the people took more initiatives during the early stages in controlling the COVID-19. But maybe recently we can see the case of the SOP fines, the 10,000, and then the excavation of the darurat. I think that is mostly this is very controversial maybe, but that one is more of the government play, the political play that is going on currently with the government and to maintain their power. So they are a government that is not selected or is not elected by the people. So I think in order for them to find a standing, to find a ground is through the fear mongering, to establish their power. And especially during this sensitive time, I don't think a lot of people are that confident in fighting back against the government, because we know we could lose our jobs in any time, and there in finding a new job is really hard, and that's something that a lot of people are trying to avoid. um, as we can see, compared to other countries, Malaysia, when it comes to demonstrations, there are, of course, there have been a few, one recently in front of the Parliament building, but it's not big. It's not on a big scale compared to France or Thailand. Because the people are, maybe it is influenced by the culture. Maybe you guys can talk more about the culture, but yeah, the culture in Malaysia is to be more respectful. It is also in our negara to have respect towards the sultan, the law, and so on. So I believe that that's why, yeah, that is why we don't have much. We submit easier to the government and their play in fear. So yes, I hope that answered your questions.
Thank you, Sister Iman. I believe it answered the question for me. I believe we have the third question for the brother Idham. So the question for brother Idham is come from the Mas Amir Shami. When it comes to the prevention plan, there are views that Asian countries are much stricter than the West. Is this related to the difference of culture and social norm of both group? Really good question because it actually related with the Sister Iman explanation. So please welcome brother Idham.
Yes. So first and foremost, thank you for the questionnaire, and secondly, thank you to Sister Iman, because indeed her answer is very much relevant to this question. And generally, yes, we can say that the differences in the way people impose regulation upon society under this pandemic situation very much owes to our cultural norms and our social structure. Um, uh, One of the thing that I can think of is how in the West, for example, the discourse of freedom is very much prominent, and this might have to do with why in terms of restriction, perhaps the US is a little bit more, how to say, milder than the Asian countries. But that being said, I think to know the answer a little bit more specifically, um, perhaps we can change a bit on how we ask the question itself. Uh, for example, when we talk about the West and we talk about Asian countries, we have to bear in mind that these so-called West are um, consisted of heterogeneous group of people, and the same applies to the Asian countries. And in fact, perhaps the only thing that unites us as Asian is that name Asian. Um, this is what we have to bear in mind uh, in trying to uncover all the social reality, because the truth is very, very complex. So we can take a look at how each group of people around the world deal with the issues of social control. The way Malaysians did, for example, is not the same as um, would not be the same, or it can be the same. But point of the matter is, in sociology and anthropology, we have more questions than than answers. Okay, yeah, we yeah in search in search for that answer, it is best for us to bear that in mind, because that's how actually these scholars found and discovered the answer first. So that is all my response to the question. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Idaham. So, I would like to proceed for the next question for Sister Hasrin. The question is, some says the COVID lockdown is heaven for introvert. However, despite that stereotype, they also face mental health issue. It does really it it doesn't really matters when it comes to mental health issue. So, Sister Hasrin, you may answer the question.
All right, that's a very interesting question. Just like what Brother Idham said, we ask more questions than we answer questions. So for this question, lockdown is a heaven for introverts, but despite the stereotype, it doesn't really matter. Uh, I would say I would rephrase what my lecturer in clinical psychology she said that human beings we are very complex. We are not all the same. We might say that rambut sama hitam tapi hati lain-lain. Well, that's the truth because we're not the same. We're complex. So it doesn't really matter what your personality is. Introversion is a personality trait. So there are so many things that can. It's how do I say this? It's not as easy as A equals to B, A plus B equals to C. It's not something like that. It's very just like that. So I can't say for sure that introversion can cause mental health issues or it does not cause mental health issues because it is different for a lot of people, for so many people. Some might be affected, some might not, and that is because of other factors going on. It's not just personality trait. There are other factors your such as biological factors, psychological factors, sociological factors, and spiritual factors. So there are a lot of things going on, and we can't really say for sure that this person has this mental health issues because of that. You can't say something like that. So I hope that answers the question. So thank you.
Thank you, Sister Srin. I think that's really give an insight how people are different despite the stereotype. Despite people say you are introvert, you are extrovert, you are like this, you are like this. Actually, every person is different how they perceive and they act on some things. So thank you, Sister Srin. That's really really helpful for us to know not just even ourselves but our others people itself. So I think we have the question for Brother Ahmad Dini for the IRK. The question is this where I think the question is from the YouTube comment. A group of people say we need to fear Allah and not COVID-19. After that they neglect SOP. Is this Islamic in nature and understanding? So I think it's very controversial. So please welcome Brother Dini.
I think I've just thank you for the question. Such a lovely question. I really like it. Thank you. I thank you to Brother Harris for giving me the question. Right. I think I've mentioned it once when I was giving the talk just now, that every ulama, every Islamic scholars, they have their own ijtihad, they have their own views and thoughts. And I've just said before that these two hadith are contradicting to each other. So one side of the scholars uses the hadith for their own opinion, and one side of the scholar uses their hadith on their opinion, on their ijtihad. So we cannot blame all these ulama that they are wrong, they are wrong, they are wrong. No, we can't. We have to ra'ikan, we have to try to utilize the brilliance in our own ways. But because what happens during the early Islamic time is that they do not have scientific proof. They do not have the modern technologies like we have today. So in our modern period, we've got to understand that this pandemic can be proved with scientific facts, with scientific methods. So that's why the ijtihad, on this day, we use the ijtihad by using the data from the science, from the experiment that's been done by the scientists that prove that this pandemic exists. So that's why when they say that we need to follow the SOP, that we need to follow the guideline, yes, I know Allah will give us health, Allah will give us the death, but actually do not just say that everything is going by we just say that Allah will do this, Allah will do that. No, we have to have our own boundaries on what to do. We have to protect ourselves. We've got to follow this thing to not just protect ourselves but protect the others around us. We've got to understand that is a bigger mafsada, the bigger thing that we need to, the bigger maslahah that we have to do and we have to protect. And to understand what I want to, what I've just meant just now is that try to put yourself, go to the zoo. If you've watched Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stones, what did Harry did to Dudley when they went to the zoo? Dudley was put inside the cage with the snake. Now imagine yourself with the snake and you said, Allah will help me, Allah will save me. What will happen? You cannot do it. That's why they put the glass to keep you safe. That's the SOP. That's why you need to understand that what the ulama did just now, what the ulama did for us is to make us safe. Remember the maqasid sharia, we've got to hifz nafs, we've got to protect ourselves, protect our life. If you say that everything is Allah, then you are not Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah, because Ash'ariyah, Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah always says that everything is Allah wills, but we have a way to stop it. We have a way to do it. There is a path that we can to make our own path, so we can stop it. But if we have tried, if we have usaha, we have tawakkal and so on, and then we can say that's Allah wills. That's all Allah has given us. But if you don't do anything, then you are not Ash'ari, brother. Sorry, I cannot help you in that. All right. So I think that's my answers for the question.
Thank you, Brother Dini. I think that's really, really deep full meaning. I think it's important for us not to taking things too literal, and we need to follow the one that knows better than us. So thank you, Brother Dini. I think that concludes our first Q&A session, first round of the Q&A session. Since we have extra time, we will proceed with extra question. So I'm going to move on for the next question. So are the speakers ready? So moving on, the first question is the for Sister Iman. Sister Iman, you said just now that the goods that most Malaysians are more aware to political situation affected by the pandemic. Will this secure our democracy practice in the future when the pandemic is over? Please welcome Sister Iman.
Okay, thank you guys. Thank you again for the question. Yeah, like I said, there is going to be an impact for when people are, more aware of the situations right now. This will impact in a way where they know their rights. They know their rights as, citizens of a democratic country. They will know that there are things where, that they can fight for, and what should be given to them, and so on. So I feel like I said, this will shape a society that is more informed in exercising their rights within a democratic state. And I think I can just relate it to the second question. How is this going to affect the next general election, the 15th general election? I think compared to previous general elections, the previous one where the GE14 was one of the most influential, the most famous one, because that was when we saw the youth rising, and a lot of people were more participative in it. I feel like in the next GE15, this will also be a similar case, but maybe I would say not as, it won't involve much with those students overseas, as I think that, with all that has been going on during this pandemic, I think a lot of people might have lost their confidence in, voting, and elections, which I hope is not the case for us here. No matter what, we should always keep on fighting. We have to know what our rights is, but in terms on how it will impact and influence the next general election, is, I think, people know what to look forward to now. People will know how they will be choosing their representatives. Will their representative be those fickle-minded one who would change and party hop? They would probably vote for someone who shows a promising stand, uh, probably show a promising manifesto. And I think with the coming general elections, these people will also be more attentive of what the people want, because they would want to win votes, right? So yeah, I think I'm looking forward to see all these promising policies that they are willing to offer in exchange for the people's vote. But like I said, yeah, I feel with the coming GE15, a lot more people will be more participative. A lot of people maybe will turn out, the voter turnout maybe will increase. Inshallah, that is my hope. So yeah, I hope that answers the questions for the first and second one. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Sister Iman. I think that's really good explanation. However, Sister Iman, your job is not done. Tonight you have very much fans asking question for you, to only you. So before we start, before I'm saying the next question, I would like to share. I would like to tell to all audience out there, do ask the question to all the speakers. If you have any speaker for Sister Iwani, for Sister Hasri, you can ask it and mention their name in the comment section, and then you can ask your question. So we proceed to the next question. Question for Sister Iman again. The question is the enforcement of the law by the government against those who violate the SOP is somewhat dubious based on the issue that are happening today. What is your comment on this issue?
Thank you for the love and support, guys. I hope I can answer your questions well. Dubious, maybe, I guess in a sense it is. Are you trying to talk about the double standards of the SOPs? Because as some of my friends would know, I am well aware of that as well. There is a very clear double standard in the SOPs, where not everyone is not everyone has to follow the SOPs, if you get what I mean. Like, okay, it is said that it is applicable to everyone. Everybody has to follow it, but we know, and it has been, it's been a viral matter where we see this only applies to the people with no power, the people who is under influence of fear that they might lose jobs and whatsoever. We don't see the same things being applied to those who are very clearly violating the SOPs, very clearly violating the guidelines, and so on. So I think this is, well, when I show when this is, I think, reiterate my previous point. A lot of the people are now more aware of this clear um this clear, what do you call it? Yeah, double standards. This clear double standards of the people and, those above us. Yeah, so I feel that the government has to show their commitment in making this something that is controlled. Like if it is to be enacted, then it should be applied to everyone, regardless of their status, regardless of their jobs as a celebrity or as a minister. It shouldn't be something that is only applied according to the wealth or your fame. So I'm sorry, I don't know if that's controversial, but I feel, yeah, that's what I think that is in my opinion.
Thank you, Sister Iman. I think if we talk about justice, about law, it can be ruled out a long, long time ago. Even the philosopher back then in the Rome classical, in the Greek classical, can talk about it, and it will be never-ending discussion if we keep on talking about that. So, I think thank you that for that really good explanation. I want to proceed with our next short question. The question is very special since it come from the HISTFORIUM IG story. So if you guys want to know, we actually post the question if you are on the IG story, so you guys can actually ask from the IG story, and we will forward the question here. So the question is for Brother Dini: how Islam looking forward for this pandemic?
You're asking me?
Yes, Brother Dini.
That's the question. Or what's the question again?
How Islam looking forward for this pandemic?
How Islam looking forward for the pandemic? What does that mean from the question? I don't understand.
I believe the audience want to know what maybe just like Brother
Oh,
Dini shared.
prepare the pandemic.
Yes. What
I see.
after the pandemic? What's happened? What can Islam teach? What does we as a Muslim see?
So, firstly, thank you for the questions. We've got to understand, Alhamdulillah, that everything that happens in this world have their own hikmah, right? It is sometimes it's a blessing from Allah, and sometimes it's an azab as a reminder for us of the one who have trespassed the will of Allah. So sometimes this kind of pandemic, it's not all of it are azab, but actually it's a kind of what you call that ujian, or you call that, what do you call it in English? As a test for us humankind, to test our iman and our taqwa, because the world not is not a paradise, right? We've got to remember that the world is not a paradise. Not everything is perfect. So you can't say that the pandemic is an azab. So if you say that the pandemic is azab, did Khalid al-Walid, did Abu Ubaidah al-Jarrah, did Muaz bin Jabal died because of azab? Did Allah give the azab to them? No, it's a test for them. That's what they call, by the understanding of the hadith, that say it is a martyrdom. However, in our modern world, as I mentioned a lot just now, we've got to follow what the government has given us, the ulul amri. They have given us orders to ensure our safety, the safety of us, to follow the maqasid sharia. So that's why when we have the pandemic, we've got to understand first, what is this? Is it a test? Is it an azab? Not everything that Allah gives is an azab. It's a test for us. So use that opportunity to actually try to get close to Allah. Try to read the Quran. Try to pray more, because Allah wants us to remember Him. So that's why Allah give tests to us, so that we always remember Allah and give everything to Allah, because we are His creations. You've got to understand, Allah is the creator, Al-Khaliq, and we are the makhluk. His creations. That's why we always need to try to remember Him, and Allah will give this test to us. So with this pandemic, it's actually a good thing. Actually, when we are in the quarantine, I really hope that this quarantine will teach us to get closer the bonds with our families. It will make us more intimate in our prayers with Allah. We read more Quran. We have a lot of free times. We're not going out with our friends, but we can read the Quran. Even though the mosque is closed, it never happens before in Islamic history, because as I said before, when the pandemic happened in Damascus, what happened? People go to the mosque to learn about the hadith. But In our time, the mosque is closed because we actually understand of the signs that happens. So that's why if we cannot go to the mosque, we just pray at home with our family and do our best to get closer to Allah as close as possible. That's my answer.
Thank you, Brother Dini. I think that's really answered despite the questions very short. You can actually elaborate your answer very well. Thank you, Brother Dini. I think we're going to move forward for the next question, which is for Sister Iwani. We see the similarity in previous pandemic, the casualty are massive. Is there other factors that contribute to this huge number beside hygienic and medicine? So this question come from Brother Iman Zaidi. Yes, Sister Iwani.
Alright. Thank you, Brother Ayman Zaidi, for the questions. Yes, there is the other factor that is the huge number of of flag, whereas during the past time, you can see that it's from a threat where the European love to trade with others. They spread by contact and do they travel on ships and it spreads massively during and cause the plague. And also it can be the animal where the rat in a trap can affect the pandemic itself. And other than that, it can be um, the lack of the the causes of the war itself, where the World War One, there's several cause of it, and also uh, the World War Two doesn't cause the plot because um, the war is learned from the previous war where they already received a vaccine and medicine from the medical assistance. So I hope it answered your question, Brother Ayman. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Iwani. I think for me it answer the question for me actually. I think we do have a question. If you guys can see in the comment section, to those speakers, if you move on to the comment section, there's question from the Sister Norafika. They actually question for Sister Hasrin. I would like to ask, in your opinion, what if we know our friend is not really okay in terms of their mental health issue? What can we do as a BFF, best friend forever gitu?
Thank you, Sister Rafika, for the question. I think a lot of people can, relate to this question because mental health, what I would suggest is first to listen without any judgment, because it's very easy to say, it's okay, it's just a little bit of time, or I have bigger problems than you. That is not something that you can say to someone who is not well. um, they are in a problem, and they have troubles. So what I can suggest you to do is to listen, and when you listen, you empathize with that person, with your BFF. um, how to empathize is by really listen and really, you don't judge, you don't look into things from your perspective, but look into things from their perspective, how they feel. You can ask questions like, what does this makes you feel? How can I help you? Something like that. And after that, if it gets really burdening for you, then you can ask for your friend to meet someone who is a professional, mental health professional, because if it burdens you, it's not doing any of you good. I think a lot of people can. I don't think a lot of people, but some people, they do have this problem with learning learning that their friend is having a problem with their mental health and they don't know what to do. So a lot of people, they just give everything that they can, and then it's not good for their mental health. So that is not a healthy way to help your friend as well. So just be mindful that your mental health matters, your best friend's mental health matters, and what I can suggest is to listen without judgment. And really, if it really gets too much, then you can ask for your friend to meet people who are much more professional than you are, because that's just how I can help you out. Thank you for the question again.
Thank you, Sister Asrin, for the answers. I think it's our responsibility to help our friend, even if they have their own courage to open up their problem to us. So it's our responsibility to help them. Thank you, Sister Asrin. We're going to move on for our second last question. It is for Brother Idaham. So, Brother Idaham, your question is, how you see the unity of the society in the pandemic? So, please welcome Brother Idaham.
All right. Question. I think this is very much implied in my earlier speech, because I talk about how the pandemic impacted our social life, where it the through fear, the social solidarity in groups had weakened, and um, in terms of the relation between different groups, or in terms of social distance, um, it has been aggravated in the phenomena that I call as the othering, or the regarding of people not belonging to our culture as the other, sometimes to the point of dehumanization. I mean, everyone can see, for example, the rise of stigmatization, um, demonization of a certain group of people with certain characteristics. Uh, yeah, in terms of unity, that solidarity, we can say it's in terms of social distance, it is increasing. Um, in terms of social solidarity, it seems weakening, but humanity have always a way to adapt, so that they can go into what they perceive as the ideal situation. So yeah, that's my answer.
Thank you, Brother Idaham, for your answers. I think that really show how people nowadays, no people, I know, it's we ourselves, we come stronger, even how the pandemic affected our life, become stronger to become more unity despite the social distancing. I think we have another question for Brother Idaham, so we cannot relax. So we have another question.
Yeah.
The question is, the new norms change our social behavior. We become more alert or cautious or paranoid. What's your opinion regarding this change? Will impact our society in the future? Can it be normal back?
That is a very hard question, because asking about future, I think so far, other than like what Wali Allah, um, no one can really make predictions. But what can I say about change? Well, change is the attribute of our existence. And this is also true when it comes to society. We are always changing, and we are always different. Uh, Change is the norm if we look at the bigger picture. So, um, honestly, I would say I don't think we can go back to the normal situation. In If we look into history of society, I don't. We have never seen a particular community, um, you know, um, apa tu, um, change its feature exactly to what it used to be in the past. Although we have tradition, um, yeah, no, I don't think we can go back to the normal way, because, like I said, change is the true normal. Um, uh, Now things seems, because of the fear that I mentioned just now, things appear scary, things appear unusual, but we will learn how to adapt with the situation and routinize everything to the point that we feel that this change is our new, the stable identity for us, the stable life, the normal life that we have now. So yeah, that's also pretty much my answer to this question. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brother Dahab. I think that show us we as human itself need to be ready for the change. I think we will be ready for the change, inshallah. So I think we are going to proceed to our last question, which is for Sister Hasrin Shazana. So, Sister Hasrin, your question is wait, let me see. Previously, people deal with the psychology problem as there is no such special treatment at that time. How people previously deal with their psychological problem as there is no such special treatment at that time compared to today's.
Thank you, Radia Ayman, for the question. Back then, how people treat mental health problems, you do know about Satan and witchcraft, all those stuff. So that relates to psychology because they believe this is when it was the dark ages. They believe that people who are mentally ill, they are witches, something like that. So they they kill them off. That is not very good. And then after that, they try to be objective and they try to implement science. This is in the Western perspective. I forgot to mention this is Western. They try to implement science, and then they try little by little with the most inhuman thing, which is to kill off, and then slightly, slightly humane but still inhumane, which is to put them in a mental asylum. And then you know how the pictures are. They were being chained. They were being treated like animals, something like that. So they weren't being dealt really nicely. And then they start to build hospitals and with more progressive science coming through, then we have what we have now. But for an Islamic perspective, even during the golden age of Islam, that was when the first mental hospital in the world being built. It's in Baghdad. So that's very interesting to see that Muslims are more progressive than the Western people back then. But now, well, I can't say much about now. But yeah, that's what happened. They built the best mental hospital, and then Abu Zaid al-Bakhi, if I'm not mistaken, it's Abu Zaid al-Bakhi. He was the one who actually classified a disorder called obsessive compulsive disorder. It's not being called obsessive compulsive disorder at that time, but he did notice the pattern. So he actually documented this disease, not disease, mental illness. He documented it, but it was not being translated, so nobody knew about it until recently. So OCD um, was being studied and stuff like that quite quite new. I don't remember whether it was 20th century or something like that, but it was very new. So it's very interesting to see that actually a Muslim has discovered OCD before. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. That was how people treat people with mental health issues back then. Yeah, you have to look into whether you want to ask about Western perspective or Islamic perspective.
It's okay, thank you. Thank you, Sister Asrin, for very good explanation. I think even me as a history student never know about it. So I guess I learned something new for today. Thank you, Sister Asrin. So I think that's actually the question. The last question has actually ended our discussion session. I would like to thank every speakers for answering and giving her their knowledge for us today. So we're going to proceed. We're going to invite all of our speakers to give us a last word from them. So please welcome our first speaker, Sister Iwani.
So I learned a lot tonight, and it's such an eye-opener discussion for me. And for all in the audience, we doesn't won yet the battle and keep fighting, keep send for your semester and stay hygiene everyone. Thank you.
Please welcome Sister Iman.
Okay, hi. I would again like to thank HISTFORIUM for inviting me to this event today. It's been quite an experience. I've gained a lot of insights, and I think Brother Sidki in the comments had also pointed out something that has been also taught by my lecturers that from this session we could actually see how interconnected everything is, all our disciplines, be it psychology, sociology, history, IOK, it is all interconnected. And even in politics, in making policies or studying, we actually have to look from the point of view of sociology, anthropology, and psychology. So yeah, I look forward to more of these collaborative events to happen more in the future, because I feel like it creates a more holistic discussion. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Sister Iman. Let's welcome our third speaker, Brother Idham.
Yes, I concur with the points raised by Sister Iman. It is 100% absolutely correct. I mean, absolutely agreeable. We definitely need multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary discussion and discourses like this, especially to approach um, complex problems such as the pandemic that we are currently in. So, and yeah, uh, this is such an eye-opening experience. I really would like to thank his forum for providing me this opportunity to interact and engage and learn from everyone from different disciplines, and to share knowledge as well. So don't stop. Keep on going, and in fact, add up to the rigor. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Brother Idham, for a very meaningful speech. I think we can proceed to our next speaker, Sister Hasrin Shazana.
I would like to say thank you, Historian, for this amazing collaborative project, because I think we all benefit from this. The speakers, the people in charge, the audience, I think we learn a lot. I also would like to say that mental health matters. So do take care of your mental health just as much as you take care of your physical health. If you ever need help, then there are a lot of people who can help you out. So thank you again.
Thank you, Sister Hasrin Shazana. Let's welcome our last speaker, Brother Ahmadini.
Alhamdulillah, first of all, I would like to give a huge thanks to his forum for inviting me as your speaker today. Actually, I was invited by Brother Faik, so I have like a thought or two whether I wanted to join because I have I'm quite scared by our great speakers right beside of me because we have Sister Iman and she's a very great speaker. So I might be overshadowed by them as I am an IK student, so actually my English is not that perfect as you guys. You guys speak English very well, so I'm very happy to actually be a part of this team. I'm not speaking Arabic, so I'm very happy. That's foremost. So, but actually, yes, this kind of programs need to be done frequently, just like what Dr. Noh wanted that he wants we to integrate this Kulliyah with because I've read the comments that said that he was very happy. I don't know which comment. It was from Muhammad Sidki that said that he was very happy with this event because all of our Kulliyah are related. Our department are related to each other, and we can actually understand each other with this kind of discussion. So I'm looking forward for other part of department to actually organize this kind of event, these similar kind of events in the future. So I'm looking forward for this your future endeavors, and I wish you guys all the best. And may Allah protect us from this devilish COVID-19. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Dini, for very meaningful insight. I think that's actually end our session for tonight. For me, moderator, I would like to say that each of us actually complete each other. Each department in the human sciences, Islamic urban knowledge actually has complete each other. So I would like to thanks to all the speakers that coming tonight. So with the end of that, we are going to move on with our next session, which is we're going to have Brother Ahmadini to lead us a doa recitation, and then we will then proceed to the photography session. So please welcome Brother Ahmadini.
So I will going to recite a very short dua, inshallah. So with this dua, let us put a niyyah in our hearts that by reciting this dua, we can avoid ourselves from this COVID, and may Allah stop this COVID in nearby future, inshallah. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين بسم الله الذي لا يضر مع اسمه شيء في الأرض ولا في السماء وهو السميع العليم اللهم دفع عنا البلاء والغلاء والوباء والفحشاء والنهان ما ظهر منها وما بطن من بلدنا هذا خاصة ومن بلدان المسلمين عامة إنك على كل شيء قدير اللهم إنا أعوذ بك من البراس والجنون والجذاب ومن سيء الأسقام وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين والحمد لله رب العالمين آمين آمين يا رب العالمين. That's all from
Amin.
me.
Amin. Thank you, Brother Dini. And now let's proceed to our photography session. So basically, our committee will take a screenshot. So you guys just can smile and post. So ready? One, two, three. Okay, thank you everyone. So I think that's actually conclude our session for today. Our heartfelt thanks to everyone that are watching us tonight. And on behalf of the committee and members, me myself, Haris Naim as a moderator, want to apologize for any mistake and shortcoming for our today's events. Also, don't forget to join us tomorrow for His Fest 2021 closing ceremony, where we will announce the winners for every competition that we conducted during the HISFest. For more information, you guys can visit our social media at IAM HISTFORIUM on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Telegram. So, wabillahi taufiq wa hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you everyone. Stay home, stay safe. Goodbye.